welcome to a special episode of my new health and wellness series being featured on the Norfolk Community Television Station. On each episode, I will bring on thought-provoking guests in the local community who are elevating the lives of those around them through their work and practice. And today, we have a special guest named Erika, Calais, who's an adjustment counselor at the Holliston High School. And I brought her on here because I think she has so much experience and wisdom in helping others, and you can see it in her and who she is as a person, and kind of she lives what she practices. And I couldn't think of a better guest to be featured on the first episode of the series. So thank you, Erika.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So can you get a little bit into your background and how you got into mindfulness, or how would you describe mindfulness and self-awareness?
Mindfulness and self-awareness to me, I guess, is really just a way of life. To me, it is walking out the door and noticing what's around you. It's spending time outside. It's having an open heart and a loving feeling, and going into the world like that, just sort of open-hearted and loving. I know it's the non-judgment, which is the best part. I think it's that whole idea of when you open your heart, you no longer are judging anyone. And so you see things for what they are and people for what they are. Mm-hmm. And it's all just, something that you take in and appreciate. As far as my background, there was nothing ever that was a formal thing for me. I was really, way back, I think there's a couple events that sort of hit off for me what happened. And that was, I was your basic antsy, self-conscious teenage girl, which is pretty much saying the same thing as being a teenage girl, because that's the way you are when you're a teenage girl. And then when I was 19 in college, I had a summer off where I had always been with all my friends all the time. We, summers, weekends, whatever. And then I had a summer where none of my friends were available to me because I worked opposite shifts from them. And it was really interesting because then it was a summer where I was just going to be me. And that was weird. I wasn't making decisions based on friends. I wasn't wondering what somebody else might think of anything I did. It was really just me. I'm not sure I thought I would have liked it, but what happened is I began to know who I was for the first time in the absence of everybody else's judgment and thoughts. And I remember having a moment that I had said to myself how much I didn't like cold weather, which to me is a negative thing. And I always thought you shouldn't be negative about anything. And it took me aback because I thought, well, wait a minute, I really don't like cold weather. And then I thought, does that make me a bad person? I don't think there's anything wrong with not liking cold weather. And somehow it just started off this ability for me to define myself again, because I was in my own space with no judgment. And it was a summer of discipline for me where I was very active. I exercised and I ate well all summer long. I lost weight. I looked good. And I just kept on growing this sense of a person inside of me. And that was a huge thing for me. When I went back to college in the fall, people were like, what happened to you? People just noticed that I felt different. And all I can say is I just felt like a person, that was a different person. It was huge for me. And what I realized it did was, as opposed to going back thinking, wow, I look great, I feel good, I should dress well, so, I'll be noticed. It was this absolute sense of freedom from worrying about what anyone thought. I stopped thinking about me because I was okay. For the first time, I was totally okay. And so I could just appreciate other people and go out and do what I wanted without wondering if my butt looked too big or my nose was big or if I was saying something funny. So it was just this massive feeling of freedom for me. And I remember studying that next year, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we got to that point of, self-actualization. And I realized that's really how I felt at the time. I just felt like I was so, so free. And I had met this place in spirituality where, if I died now, I just want everyone to know, to be happy for me because I lived such a great life. So that was a really cool thing for me. And at the same time, I was studying biology and psychology. Those were my double majors. And it was because I was fascinated in how the mind and the body interacted. And I couldn't pick which one. And I didn't know there was a thing like neuroscience. I don't think I knew what it meant. I just knew that was my interest. And I really had no idea what to do with it. So it just kind of sat there latently for a while. And then I had this other time where I had an epiphany, one of those great spiritual breakthroughs that happened in a place of nature that I love very much. And I just had that sense, and it's impossible to describe, but just a sense of, came out of the blue of just myself being absolutely full of holes, or that my pores were this big. Everything was rushing through me and part of me, over me and around me. And I just felt completely at one with everything around me. And it's never describable, I don't think, in a way that people get it. But those were all things that just sat on me. And then I started having flying dreams, and my flying dreams were amazing. It was, just about being free. And when you're free and feel that good, you want to tell everybody else how to feel that good. I know you've talked about that. Like, you're learning all this stuff and you're getting it, and you want to share it with everybody.
Right.
And in my dreams, I was just trying to teach everyone how to fly because it felt so good. But then I really quickly got that not everyone had any idea what I was talking about. It wasn't a time when mindfulness was talked about. Meditation was kind of one of those weirdo things that people did, and the yogis did them. So it was my own journey. I realized not everyone actually wanted to hear what I had to say or how great it was to feel that good. So I had to make it kind of my own journey. And so that's what I did along the way. Eventually I decided I wanted to work with people and try to help them be better, be their better self, something I'd experienced. And so in my later 20s, I decided to be a counselor, a school counselor, because I knew I could have access to so many kids. Boy, did I always remember the angst of being a teenager. I know you're closer to it now than I am, but you remember how that was, right?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, it was never a thing, but recently what makes me so happy is, as you know, it's become a thing that everyone's talking about. It's so much more accessible. It stopped being weird. And there's now just this burgeoning science, that the neuroscience coming out about it, that explains everything that I have felt and wanted and wished I could say. So now I can put words to it, and I can say, look at this. This is why this works. You understand the biology. Maybe you can understand the psychology of this whole thing.
Right.
So finally, I'm getting to start to use that in a way that I think can be meaningful and works for me anyway.
It's like comes at a perfect time. And, to go off what you said, because although I'm not a girl, I am a guy, and I did grow up with our own, things of being you grow up through high school, and you go to college with this image of who you think you are, and which may or may not be aligned with who you actually are. Some of it is, some of it's not. It's just these stories you make up in your mind. And that's why I think this stuff is so valuable. And I love what you're doing at a young age for these kids, because you're trying to teach these kids. In my eyes, I don't see you work, but I'm just assuming like a lot of these kids are learning some of these concepts at such a young age that they're going to be able to apply earlier and learn. It's going to be able to be, it's almost going to be ingrained in their memory at an early age. So it's almost like easier when they're older. So when they do come in those hurdles that we've all been through, it's not going to be as hard. And to go off that, how do you implement like these concepts, mindfulness, and be aware of your emotions, but not get attacked, like non-judgment? How do you teach these to kids now in your school system?
So that's a great question, because it's certainly an evolving thing right now. It's taken a while to get where it's getting even accepted to think and talk about in the schools. When I would see kids individually, they would get pieces of that kind of talk. I've always done most of my counseling, when possible, outside the building. I'm the counselor. When you come, I'm like, you want to go for a walk? And we would walk, and I would find at that time how much more kids could sort of open up and really be who they were in that moment. They weren't in the confines of the building, which I think can change who you are sometimes. When you go outside and there's this freedom, you're also not looking at each other's faces, where there's sort of, am I saying the right thing or the wrong thing? And there's no, it becomes more free, I think, for people to just speak when they're all looking at something else. So I've always been that counselor that's walking around the building, talking to kids and finding out the freedom. And so I always take as many moments as I can. And you can only meet a kid where they're at, right? So there's some kids who are not going to go near that stuff, don't want to hear any of it, but I try to like open the door just a little tiny crack. And when I see any kind of feedback coming, I'll open it more and more. So what I've gotten to the point, this year unfortunately was cut off in school because of pandemic, but last year I started offering going to classes to do meditations in classes. And I didn't start doing that till later in the year. Because I didn't know what I was doing either. I mean, like I said, I had no formal training in anything. I just knew I believed this stuff so wholeheartedly. So I thought, oh, what the heck? And I plunged in. And so I think the last year, I think I went to something like 18 different classrooms, and some were repeated. And I went in and did a meditation. I almost always, at least at the beginning, was using the body scan, you know, the sort of a head to toe relaxation with some breathing on either end. And I think what shocked me is I figured in those 18 classes, I probably saw about 160, 70 kids. And I could probably put on one hand the number of kids that looked really awkward or wouldn't go along with me or just kind of gave me the eye roll.
Right.
But that was it was like a couple % of the kids. The rest were all in. And it really, really blew my mind. And it tells me so much how much kids need this. And the fact that they could do it in a room with one another. And I happen to believe that energy in a room is something that others can feel. And I think the more you have in a room in a way, and you feel other people going into this space, I think it's easier to do. But it was really shocking to me. So it tells me how much kids need this and want this. And so I wanted to expand on it. I've been to some classes. I did some groups this year that were mindfully based. You know, we did some mindful practices, some meditations. We talked about stress and the biology of stress and how it presents, you know, in learning wise, both mentally and physically. And when kids start to see that this is what stress is, this is how it looks in your body, they all start to say, well, yeah, that's what happens in my body. And they need to understand where their stress is, because it looks different to all of us. We all feel it, but some it's in the gut and some it's in the head and some like your fingers and hands go cold or whatever. So we would explore what it was like for them and then how it impacted them. And then we would do some meditative stuff. And it just was kind of a joy to watch it unfold in kids, where it stopped being this thing called stress and anxiety that no one knew to a very personal experience of it. Which then, you know, they could also learn, so if I'm having this experience and I feel like I'm about to have this experience, what can I do to minimize this experience that's uncomfortable? And that's where the mindful meditation, breathing and stuff like that comes in.
I think it's so cool because even through my own like self-exploration into ways to combat my own, I feel like everybody has some kind of form of stressors or anxiety in life, different stages or just different experiences. But I like the meditation mindfulness because it gave me personally a tool that I can use myself anytime I want. It's very self-empowering and liberating to know that I am in control, you know? And I think that it's so cool that these kids are learning that on some little level at an early age, you know? And that's why it's so amazing what you're doing. What do you think resonates? Like if you're going to go in a classroom with just a general group of students, what are kind of some basic concepts that you try to cover with them? Like, is it like what certain chemicals do that go up to the brain that filter out to your body? Is it like how to take a negative thought and maybe be aware of it, but don't have any judgment towards it? What are some like basic stuff that maybe people who are watching this at home can do, like right now, for example?
So just to clarify, when I've gone really into classrooms, it's really been about doing a meditation, because part of it, if I try to teach too much and do one, they might lose the concept. So I kind of walk in and say, okay, we're going to do a meditation. When it's done, I don't ask for feedback. I'm just like, thank you all, and I leave, because I just want them to have that moment of experiencing it. But whenever I do a meditation and I'm ready to go, I remind them that what they had just done was change their mind about what to think about. So I remind them that, however you felt before the meditation, you all look relaxed, and they would. Some would come out and their eyes would be open. They're like, whoa, what was that? But I would remind them that was purely thought that made that happen. They literally chose to hear my words and sort of follow my directions, and they told their mind, I'm going to do these things. And so when I shut my eyes and I breathe and I picture my muscles melting or whatever it happens to be, purely done in their own mind. I didn't really do anything except present the opportunity for them to listen to it. So I'm like, if you did this once in your mind, you can do this again in your mind. You just have to engage it and think about it. That's a big one, because I do think thought is everything. I've learned more and more over time that you can choose how to think and what to think. So I can, one of the exercises I do is I'll have kids conjure up a really anxiety-provoking situation. And we do, the eyes closed and sort of get into that situation for a minute. And then I have them draw it out. I have these little bodies, and they'll draw it out, what it feels like. And you'll see kids drawing a big weight in their belly, or their head with all these squiggles in it, or whatever it happens to be. And that's because they chose to think a negative thought, and now they know what that feels like. The direct impact of thinking of negative makes my body feel like this, and it is full of these hormones that make me feel worse. And then we do the opposite, where we'll do a meditation that's really positive and more loving or happy or simply relaxing, and then they'll draw that body and what it looks like in their body, and they're so significantly different. So we talk about, so you were thinking about a negative thing, your body released all these chemicals that made you feel bad, so that you feel like you had a weight in your stomach. For example, whenever you get stressed, your body shuts down digestion because it doesn't need to use it for fight or flight, right? And so you get this feeling in your gut. Sometimes you feel like the bottom is dropping out of your gut. That's because the blood in your gut is rushing down to your legs so you can run. And so that it's an actual biological thing happening. And then they begin to understand, okay, wait, stressful thought means stressful hormones, which actually changes what's happening in my body. And then when they have the thoughts that are positive, they feel the relaxation, the brain starts to come back online, they're able to think again, and they're able to be calm, and they're able to feel good. And so you just put it all into this puzzle where you understand bad thought, bad experience of hormones and chemicals in your body, feeling positive thought, your body releases all these positive hormones that make you feel good, and you feel good. And it's a thought, right? It all starts with thought. So kids get that concept a lot. I think I also, we talk about it in a thoughtful way. When you think about stress, some things that you know for sure is that your body shuts down everything it does not need and turns up everything it does need. So, while you know that when you have a stressful response, your heart starts to beat faster so you can get oxygen, sugars released so that you can have more energy. Your digestion shuts down because you don't need it in the moment. But, there's all the body things, and breathing gets faster. All these bodily reactions happen in this cascade, right? The minute you feel stressful, this cascade happens. And of all of those things, there's only one that's in your control.
Right.
Your breath. So you remind kids, and when you can control one of those, the cascade effect can go the opposite direction. So you start breathing, and your heart slows down, your blood pressure goes down, and all those things kind of happen. The other thing that they really relate to is what happens to your mind when you're stressed out. Because of the chemicals in your body and your need to flee or fight, your brain goes into this mode. It goes basically offline, and it goes into popcorn mode. I have to see everything all at once because I got to run over this, and I got to jump over this, and I got to go through this.
Yeah.
This very scattered brain that's all over the place, and it cannot focus on something, academic at the moment. And at the same time, your ability to memorize goes down. Your IQ goes down. They say your IQ drops like 13 points when you hit a point of anxiety, because it's like, if this is your brain and this is your frontal lobe right here, it just pops offline. If you have your little stress, this is when we do a lot. This is your amygdala inside your head, which is the thing that causes all that stress response. That's going, your brain goes offline, and you're not thinking and you're not making good decisions, right? We all know that.
And you're thinking, why do I feel so clouded right now? Why can't I think coherently?
And it's 100% a stress response that you and everybody else has, right? And if your brain is offline, you're going to make a lot of bad decisions, and you're not going to focus in class, which is, of course, I'm in a school, so it's one of the big things of why are kids focused, because they're stressed. When your body's stressed, it literally takes your frontal lobe offline. And when that goes offline, you can't regulate your emotions anymore. Right? This is responsible for helping you regulate your emotions. And so, you go really out of whack. And I think sometimes when kids see that, and I'll show them a list of all these responses, they're like, okay, I'm not crazy. Right?
Yeah.
And what happens, no wonder I can't pay attention. It's not like I'm stupid. I just can't pay attention. So anyway, I think all those things, when you teach them bit by bit, and it's always when they're kind of ready to hear it, they get it. And when they communicate it to literally their own brains and selves and their bodies, that's when it makes an impact, I think, on the kids.
It's phenomenal. And they can take these skills outside of learning. They can take it to, if they're in sports, if they're in a stressful situation in sports, they can examine, okay, I'm really stressed out from this play right here. I don't know what to do. Let me breathe for a little bit, center my breathing, get calm again, make it the better decision. A simple example I can relate to was one time I remember I back in college, I lived in an apartment, just 2-room apartment. And we have a cat. And I remember I closed the closet door for where the cat does his business in litter box. And long story short, the cat took a big dump in his room, and it left a horrible stain. And I felt like I felt so bad, because I'm such a nice person. I hate to upset people, because it's probably one of my insecurities, which is I just want to be, helpful and everything. And he came to me and was like, hey, did you close the closet door? And then immediately I did. And immediately all those stress hormones just went up to me and filled me with that horrible feeling like, oh, I did something wrong. But then, because I was working on the mindfulness and meditations, becoming aware of my thoughts, in that 1 to 2 seconds, I was able to completely shut off that stress response and go back to normal, because I thought, okay, I'm having this thought. I have the choice to either keep reacting to my emotions or respond to them in a healthier manner. And then once I said, okay, what can I do now to change it? I just apologized, and I said, okay, it won't happen again. And that was it. Where maybe 2 years ago, if that same situation happened, man, I'd feel so bad for the rest of the day, and it would just bug me the rest of the night. But it really goes a long way, and it improves your happiness and your performance, and at work or in sports or anything. It improves your self-esteem, kind of what you mentioned right in the beginning of this program. And I think it's phenomenal. Anything else to add on that?
Sorry. I think that's a great story. And I think that's a huge, huge part of it, is that when you begin to recognize that stress going up, that's when you develop a habit, as you know, of saying, stop, breathe, let my brain go back online.
Right.
And now I need to make a decision. And that's what you hope is you have that habit. And that becomes this upward spiral of self-control, because it's not just that in that moment you can do it, but when you know that in the next moment you can do it too, and the next moment you're not afraid to go out of society. It's kind of like, I got this. I think those are the 3 words I wish every kid could just really learn or say every single day when they wake up and all day long. I got this. And you learn it. The more you practice, the more you learn it. And I know you and I have talked about this, but practice, just like practicing a piano, you get muscle memory. Yep. And the more you say or do this one thing over and over, the more you create it as a neural pathway in your brain. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, I don't know, making a rut in the sand, and the deeper and deeper it goes, pretty soon there's only one direction the water is going to go, and it's going to go through that rut because now it's so deep. And that's exactly what you're trying to do with your brain is practice, practice, practice. Doing exactly what you did. Whoa, I feel stressed, breath, bring it down, respond better, until it becomes habit for you. And when it becomes habit, it becomes you are more self-controlled. And apparently one of the top measurements of happiness or element of happiness is feeling like you have control over your life.
Awesome. So we got about 2 minutes left. Time flies when you're having fun, right? But that being said, have you published any meditations on YouTube, or do you have any work that people can follow you or find you at, or if they want to contact you?
So there's not a lot I'm doing right now. I'm playing with YouTube a little bit. This is new for me too. I've made a few meditations that I'm playing with that are on YouTube right now. I think it's under my name. I know so little. I'm not a techie person, but under my name, which is Erika Calais, you would find them on YouTube. There's other stuff there too. So I don't follow the whole channel. But I'm happy for anyone to listen. What I'd love to do is make some more meditations that I can put up there. Because I just want, if anyone can use anything like that, that's great. And other than that, I just say, live life with the openest heart that you possibly can, and people around you will feel it. And if you have calm, they will have calm, and you share the love.
Well, I can't thank you enough for the kind of work you're doing, especially on the local level, because it all starts like at the local level. And I commend you for the kind of work you're doing, helping out kids who need it a lot. And because it's growing up in school and going through high school is a stressful time. And I feel like you're implementing great habits in these kids that'll go such a long way, or at least get them exposed to a healthier way to take care of their problems emotionally or anything. So I can't thank you enough, and keep doing the work you're doing. I'm sure you're kind of itching to get back into classes so you can teach more kids, but thank you so much for coming on, Erika. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Meryl. That was great. Take care. Good luck on your journey.